Hey, Tara. Oh my
We're
God.
back.
I
Hi,
missed
everybody.
everybody. Hello,
Oh,
everybody.
have y'all missed
Tara,
us as much as we missed y'all? Because it's been a minute.
I know. And you know what? Every time I hear our countdown, I get jazzed up. Like, I get the chance to see my people. Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a great day. Tara, talk to me.
Man, everyone, welcome to the Solo CEOs. We are so glad you're back. I'm Tara Winston. You are
And
who?
Marilyn Johnson. And we are the what?
We're the
Solo
Solo
CEO.
CEOs. Hey, okay, y'all, we keep messing that part up, and it sounds terrible. So we got it together. Go high five. What?
Yeah. Well,
So
we tried it again. It don't quite work out.
yeah, it's not gonna work out again later. That's okay. Y'all, we are so excited. Like, I know it's been a minute, but we could not come back to you without bringing the hot fire. And let me tell you
Yes.
today, my sales, my way. Now, Marilyn, this is a confession
Yes,
I'm going
ma'am.
to give. I
Mhm.
hate sales. I hate it. I hate it. Marilyn is a sales guru. She kills it every time.
So not true. I just like to talk, and I guess it just comes out as sales, but not like some people. Some people got it locked down. Like our speaker,
Like
he
our
has a
speaker.
system. Oh yeah, and Tara, you know how long it has taken us to find somebody who really truly understands the struggles that solopreneurs and entrepreneurs go through in trying to figure out the best way to position themselves, how to really elevate that brand. But most importantly, y'all, now Tara talks about me being a salesperson, but she and I both have a massive aversion to that icky, sticky kind of sales where it's like, ooh, it's kind of grimy. We have looked for a lot of salespeople to be able to share some insight for us, and they all seem to not nail it until we met Brian.
Yeah, I
Right,
mean, it's like
Tara?
maybe the honest answer
Mm-hmm.
is like so much of what we believe with the solo CEOs is that each one of us has kind of a natural way that we want to be, and we're building our businesses how we want to. And so I don't want to be
Right.
that icky sticky person. I don't want to be that so-called used car salesperson. And yet and still I've got to find a way to authentically with integrity communicate my message, and trying to find speakers or guides or books or tools that felt in alignment with what
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to build was really hard. And so it took us, Marilyn, I feel like we've been looking for years, quite
A
frankly.
long
Mhm.
time. A
All
long
right.
time.
So,
As a matter of fact, Tara, we've been looking for so long that even with my clients, I've been looking for somebody, and I've gone through a lot of folks as far as presenters for over 15 years. I mean, people, it's not easy to find somebody, especially those who understand small business like this guy.
mhm,
So, you know what, Tara? We've talked about him. We've hyped him
mhm.
up. You want to bring him on?
Uh, let's bring him on.
Hey,
All
Ryan,
right.
welcome.
Hi,
Y'all don't
everybody.
need me. I'm going to go back and take some notes.
You gonna take notes? Okay, quick. So, everybody, I would like you to meet Mr. Brian Burkhart, and I just say Mr. just because it sounds right. But Brian,
You're very sweet.
welcome to our platform. We are so excited that you're here. We have been hyping you up, telling people all about you, not trying to make you nervous. But anyway, I love the way that you position sales, because when people think of sales, they think of certain things, and you're like, "Hey, wait, it's not as difficult as you might think it is." So, without much ado, I'd much rather you kind of give people a little bit of your background, because I might forget some things, and then take it away from there.
Well, Marilyn, thank you for that. I certainly must tell you that I am really honored to be with you and the rest of
Thank
the
you.
gang this morning. I'll tell you this. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes at Solo CEOs. And
Oh no, don't tell that.
oh, it was fun. I can tell you right now that I spent a good 10 minutes this morning with a smile from ear to ear with you guys, because this is something that behind the scenes would actually be a really great show. Just saying. Latoya and Sherry and Krista doing their thing. Just saying, that would be great.
We have a dynamite team to help make it happen, everybody. We definitely do have some wonderful people working with us.
No doubt about it.
Thank you, Brian, for the compliment.
Well, it's true. I'll tell you this. I will give you a little snapshot of what I'm all about a few minutes in. And so
Mm-hmm.
no reason to worry about intros just yet. I will tell you this though, gang, for everyone that's paying attention, hopefully, we're going to definitely get to some Q&A at the end. And that being said, you are more than welcome, encouraged even to start asking questions right from the get-go. It's conceivable that we'll wait till the end. We'll kind of see how it goes. But please know that I really hope that this is not just a monologue, me speaking to all of you, but in fact, very much a dialogue where we exchange ideas, including those that both affirm and deny my position. You are allowed to disagree. You are all smart, capable people of immense power. Just because I say something doesn't mean it's right. It's just one man's opinion. So by all means, ask lots of questions. Let's have a dialogue. Deal?
Wonderful. Thank you, Brian. Everybody, drop your questions in the chat. And Brian, I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
You got it, Marilyn. Thank you so much. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Brian. It really is truly an honor to be here. And I'm coming to you from my now adopted home of Phoenix, Arizona. I'm originally a Chicagoan, 45 years. And I finally said, enough. My wife and I, we don't have any kids, and we had left through a variety of winters. She owns her business. I've been a solopreneur, entrepreneur, I should say, for a long time. And we just got sick of being cold. And so when you see things like my beloved Chicago Bears helmet behind me, those are my teams. These are my people. I miss all the Chicago talk. But of course, that's what we're not here for today. We're actually here today for you to talk a little bit about how you can actually engage your audience more and sell better. And this stuff's super important. And so let me just jump into this. Again, lots of questions, please. First and foremost, I need you to know that my company, SquarePlanet, which is a direct mirror, it's a reflection of me as the founder, we exist to elevate people. That's our core belief. Everything I do, everything my firm does, is focused on living this core belief. And of course, it's not easy to figure that out. It takes some doing. But elevating people is essential to our work. And it's not some people, not an exclusive little group of people, but all people. Regardless of station in life and any number of different factors, it's all people. That's what we strive to do. That's why we exist. How we do that is by making waves, by causing a little trouble. I just said a second ago, I'm here in the desert. There's no water here. I mean, it rained last week, but barely registers as a little blip. When we make waves, it is not of the aquatic variety. It's about helping our clients create messages, ideas, and concepts that truly stand out in the marketplace. We want to make the best kind of waves. That's how we do our work. What we do is really about helping craft messages, working with individuals and entities to develop presentations and visual identity systems and things like that to really stand out. And I got to tell you, living in Arizona, it's something. It is absolutely stunningly beautiful here. It's very different than growing up and living in the Midwest. I really am enjoying our time here. But there is one component to it that I just can't quite figure out, and that is the drivers. This little video you see next to me, this is real. This is on one of the major expressways about 3 miles from where I'm currently sitting in my office. And there is a real craziness every time you get in the car. And it's the kind of thing where out of nowhere, bam, someone will turn right into you and chaos will ensue. I can absolutely tell you with great pleasure that everyone walked away. Everyone was fine. This was more fender bender than everything else. But this thing, this lack of control is real every time you get into the car here in Arizona. And as solopreneurs, as people in charge of our business, those at the front line of actually selling our wares, it can often feel like we're out of control there as well. And we really want that control. We want to feel like we are absolutely able to make a dent in our world and be in control of the things that happen to us. And it's something that I'm sure you've all heard of. You've probably heard of Maslow's hierarchy. Well, at the very bottom are physiological needs. This is things like food, oxygen, water. But then right above that is the need to feel safe. And right above that is the need to feel like you belong. When it comes to selling yourself and your business, and I don't mean selling it as an exit, but selling it as ongoing client work, you need to feel safe. You need to feel like you're in control, and you need to feel like you fit in. Otherwise, it just gets icky. We don't want that. We want control. We want safety. And it's one of those kind of things where I've been at this a long time, and I've heard from lots of people, And some of the things that I hear folks say is stuff like, I try, but I can't find the right words. Or things like, if you've got a sales deck, you feel like you can't connect to the images and the words on screen. I've heard lots of people give the excuse of, I'm not creative. It's not my style. This is not the stuff that I can do. I've heard people say things like their audiences are different. They just want data points. Lots of people, unfortunately, say that they just wing it. They'll just kind of make it up as they go. I also, of course, can affirm that this is really a great idea. People want to stand out. They want to feel like they're different, because if that was the case, it would be awesome to stand out from the crowd. And I get it. Part of safety and belonging is to feel liked. I actually just want to be liked. And of course, finally, COVID's changed everything. I hear these kind of excuses when people are selling their stuff on a regular time. It's real. And I feel for you. And I'm in a similar position. I've been self-employed for a couple of decades. Our team has ebbed and flowed in size and scale. Just to give you an idea, in 2020, we lost $10.1 million in contracts in 11 days. Thank you, COVID. That sucked. And here in 2021, things are a little bit better. But man, I feel this stuff too. I want to feel safe. I want to belong. And so I understand this very, very deeply. I know the seat that you occupy. Okay. We want to sell our stuff. We want to feel safe. We want to feel like we're in control. And so we do things to manhandle that, if you will. But unfortunately, we get a lot of it wrong. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the firm Gartner. Gartner's a big research sort of consulting firm. And they'll tell you that 74% of the buyers, the people we're trying to sell to, the ones that write us the check, that sign the contracts, they say that we spend too much time focusing on the product. 75%, 74% of the time, 3/4 of the time, we spend too much time focusing on the product. That's a problem. That means the buyers, they're not feeling it. They're not feeling that connection. They're not feeling the conviction of you. They're not feeling like you're there to actually serve their needs. What they feel is, in fact, you're just trying to schlep products. That is no good. I want to take you back before we go forward. I want to take you back to the early mid-1990s. George H. Bush was the president. Kuwait had just been invaded by Iraq. Saddam Hussein was doing his thing, and we started the Gulf War. Unfortunately, this was incredibly popular. This was one of those kind of things where America was showcasing their love for this identity of being the victor by giving George H. Bush incredible, positive, super unbelievable numbers. He was looking really good. But it was also one of those kind of things where he had some vulnerable sides to the equation. As it was time for him to go for his second term, the Democratic challengers were starting to align themselves of who was who and what was what. And you might remember this guy. His name is James Carville. He was much older in this photo than in 1992. But in 1992, he and a very young George Stephanopoulos, the guy you see on ABC, they were advisors to then Governor Bill Clinton as he was running for the Democratic ticket. And a very, very famous line emerged. After all the stuff that was said and done and all the different things that they were looking at George's, his incredible numbers and the way that the war was going. And Carville said, "It's the economy, stupid." Very famous political line. And what that did is it galvanized the entire Clinton campaign to recognize and remember that there was one issue and one issue alone that was going to give him the White House. And we know how this story turned out. It worked. It's the economy, stupid. That lives today. It's become a meme in some regard. And if there's one thing that I want you to take away from our conversation this morning, is that it's the audience, stupid. And I'm not calling anyone stupid in any way, shape, or form. I'm here to elevate, not tear down. I'm simply following the meme of James Carville. Please, no offense intended. But it is not about you. Just a few moments ago, before we started, one of the people behind the scenes, Sherry, she was very sweet. And she said something like, "I'm here to help you. It's all about you today." I said, no, I'm going to bring this up in my presentation. It's not about me. It's in fact about all of you. It's about the audience. It always has been, and it always will be. And this very much includes the audience that you are trying to sell to. It's about the audience. One of my most favorite books ever, it's by the brothers Chip and Dan Heath. It's called Made to Stick. I will tell you this right now. I do believe it is the best book cover ever, hardcover only. You think it's a real piece of duct tape, but it's not. In this classic New York Times bestselling book, the Heath brothers, they said that 5% of the time audiences will remember statistics, but 63% of the time they're going to remember stories. A few minutes ago, I told you a statistic from Gartner. I also told you a story about James Carville. Which one do you remember more? It's about stories, gang. What we're trying to do is fuse emotion with logic. We're trying to fuse the notion of creative elements that people connect to with logical elements, things like product info, because we want to create change. All sales, no matter what you're selling, is actually selling transformation, going from point A to point B. You're using logic and emotion when you're at your peak to help people really see the power of that transformation. When Marilyn asked me to get going and said, do a quick little bio, I said, I'll get to it in a second. You're probably wondering right about now, who the heck am I? Well, that little short, stubby guy behind the lectern, that's me. This is one of my favorite photos because it's a kind of an amazing capture. It really is. I was 10. I lived in the southwest suburbs of Chicago. I was in Palos Hills. I went to Oak Ridge Elementary School. And as a fifth grader, I was running for student council president in my final year at Oak Ridge when I would be a sixth grader. And this is the speech that I stood in front of my entire class in what was really our lunch / all-purpose room. That kid standing next to me, that's my buddy Jim Leonard. I was actually best man at his wedding. He was running for VP with me. And I remember this moment with ridiculous clarity. I walked up to that lectern and I pulled that gooseneck mic all the way down. I was short then, I'm short now. The whole audience kind of laughed as they saw me pull this microphone down. And I started to give my speech. And in that moment, I understood the immense power in communication. There is a certain power that comes from rhetoric and persuasion that's unlike any other. I was never going to be the best athlete, certainly wasn't going to be the best academic, and I was no artist. I was not a great musician or ability to paint and draw. And so at this moment, I recognized that I had a unique talent and it would be something I could take with me forever. And it's actually been the thing that catalyzed what my life looks like. And today, as the founder of SquarePlanet, I lead efforts to help salespeople and sales teams get their message right. I work with a ton of CEOs and C-suite leaders. I've worked with a tremendous number of entrepreneurs. We've had 10 teams on TV shows Shark Tank. I've worked on 26 TED Talks. I spent 6 years as an adjunct lecturer at Northwestern, and now I do some work here in Phoenix with Arizona State University. And so this is the stuff I do. Doesn't mean I'm right. I hope that you can jump in with questions, answers, agreements, disagreements at the end, of course, to let me know if I'm doing it right. If you agree or disagree, I want to hear about it. But please know that this is my life's work. And it's not kids' stuff, right? Play-Doh. Play-Doh's not just a toy. I love Play-Doh, but it's a lot more than that. In fact, Plato's a guy. I want you to go back to Aristotle, Socrates, Plato, the ancient Greeks. Plato said, those who tell stories rule society. And I want you to think about the members of your family, certainly those in the position of politics and absolutely in business. We see this borne out all the time. Those who tell stories rule. Happens everywhere we turn. But I don't want you to get this wrong. It's really easy to think of stories as soft, playful, bedtime kind of stuff. And in fact, it's so easy to think this way that we actually throw this notion of storytelling out. You hear that all the time. And in fact, Harvard will tell you that the number one soft skill required for business is the ability to communicate effectively, to essentially tell a better story. But because that just doesn't feel right to adults, we say parallel narratives. I want you to tell parallel narratives. I just did one. I showed you an image and talked a little bit about Play-Doh, the kid's toy, got your mind going one place and created a parallel through the wordplay to the notion of the ancient Greek philosopher. Parallel narratives, gang, are huge when it comes to you doing a much better job in sales, in creating some clarity around your product, in building conviction around the stuff you do, and more than anything else, making a connection to your audience. The thing about a parallel narrative, though, is we actually have to go to where it begins. We have to go to its base, where it starts. And it starts with what you stand for. At the very beginning of this, I told you that my company stands to elevate people. If you follow me on things like LinkedIn, if you look at any of the social media that I post, if you look at the stuff that we constantly churn out into the world, you will see I am constantly finding ways to elevate people. It's a big deal for us. It's our core belief. In 2019, my book, it's called Stand for Something, The Power of Building a Brand People Authentically Love, was released. It was an Amazon bestseller in 7 different categories, and it's wrong. It's a book dedicated to helping you figure out what it is that you believe in, what you stand for. Throughout that book, I talk about our core belief as making waves. It's wrong. It took the pain of 2020. It took the craziness of our world. It took that time and mental space for me to actually see that it's elevating people. Why I do what I do is very different than how I do it. I literally wrote the book on knowing what to stand for, and I got it wrong. This is a fundamental question. It's incredibly difficult. It's something that I implore all of you to codify and figure out, because as we stand here right now, I want you to consider this. If I asked you, what do you stand for? How many of you could give a really succinct, solid answer? You might be able to adopt or adapt other people's core beliefs, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But have you really ever taken the time to figure out what it is that you uniquely, as a solo entrepreneur, what you stand for? It's a big deal. This is key. You got to get this right. And the reason you got to get this right is actually based in some real deal science. See, here's the thing. What you stand for, whoop, I screwed that up. What you stand for is important because your beliefs lead to your actions. There's something called cognitive psychology theory, and it says that your beliefs lead to your thoughts to your feelings, and your feelings to the actions. Essentially, you can draw a direct line from beliefs to actions. What you believe leads to what you do. What you believe leads to what you do. Let me give you an example. Let's say that you absolutely love sushi. It's your favorite food. Delicious, delicious stuff. But you're trying to impress a potential client. And somehow, some way you hear that that client hates sushi. Disgusting, nasty, raw grossness. Your beliefs and their beliefs are different. And so because you're trying to impress that client, you're not going to go out to sushi. You're going to go get pizza or a steak or a burger, whatever it is. The beliefs that you have are going to inform your actions. In this case, you believe that this client matters. And so you're going to negate your internal beliefs about how great sushi is, and you're going to go to a different place. Beliefs lead to actions. Let me give you some examples. I want you to consider the notion of a solo CPA / bookkeeper, a CFO for hire, right? Let's say that your core belief is to aggressively find every conceivable way to get deductions on taxes for your clients. You believe deeply in finding aggressive solutions to minimizing tax burdens. Yet at the same time, you're going to sign your name to that return. And so you are a person of ethical moral standards. You're never going to do anything that is below board. You're going to absolutely 100% stay within the bounds of the law. You're aggressive, but you're ethical. Create a parallel narrative to that. How about Khalil Mack, one of my most favorite Bear players of all times? This guy is super stud extraordinaire. Notice that I show a pic of him destroying Aaron Rodgers, the Green Bay Packers. Nothing makes me happier than watching the Packers lose. And when Khalil Mack plays, not only is he wildly aggressive and super disruptive, but he's clean. He doesn't get penalized. He doesn't get tossed out of the game. He's not considered a dirty player. And his whole life is that way. Good luck finding a negative story about Khalil Mack. You can't. He's unbelievably aggressive at his job, but he's incredibly clean as a human being. Your core belief, that CPA who wants to aggressively help people minimize tax burden, yet at the same time be above board, can be borne out in a parallel narrative using Khalil Mack. Consider what that would look like on your website. Business cards, signature line of an email, the physical location of your office itself. I mean, I've got a Bears helmet behind me. Imagine if everything in your world was dedicated to Khalil Mack. Your potential clients, they would remember that story. They would understand your core belief, and that parallel brings it home. That's what I want you to do. Let me give you one more example. Let's say that you're a solo insurance agent. Doesn't matter who the carrier is. In many ways, insurance is a commodity, right? It's essentially coverage for your home, your auto, etc. There's a lot of different providers, some on the more low end, some on the more high end. But you as a solopreneur, you realize that the thing that you believe in, your core belief, more than anything else, is access. You know that when people call the insurance agent, it's because something yucky happened. They got in a car wreck, a flood happened at their house, they got in some kind of a horrific medical accident. It's not ideal. They're at their lowest point. At those times, in those moments, people don't really care about how great your website or app is. They don't necessarily care what their premium payment is monthly or what their deductible is. They just want help. And so your core belief is about being accessible 24/7. 24/7. Maybe what this parallel looks like, again, think of your website, your business card, your email signature line, the way you speak at things like a cocktail party or in a presentation, certainly your physical space. Maybe you say things like, I have 2 mobile phones, and yes, they still make them. I actually carry a pager. I've got a red phone in my office dedicated in a special corner. It's a 1-800 number. It's free to call, and it's always available. And I never go on vacation, and I mean never. I am available 24/7 no matter what. Everyone that works with me has 4 different numbers to get a hold of me. They get a magnet that goes on the refrigerator. They get a foldable note that goes in the glove box of their car. They get a little ID thing in their wallet with the 800 number big and bad on it. I am available 24/7 no matter what. Call me, because when you need your insurance agent is when I'm here to step up. That's why I exist. It's what I believe. And my actions, the parallel that I take, is commiserate with that. The reason this stuff is so important is because of a very simple phrase that is ever so important to me, human person, Brian, but also business owner. It's because you can't give what you don't have. You can't give what you don't have. I told you that our core belief is to elevate people. I know this, right? I know deeply that it is to elevate people. And so now I can give that. I can absolutely make that happen. And we do all kinds of things. I mean, things like in my car right now, as we speak, I've got little packs and Ziploc bags of a water bottle, those little orange, cheesy kind of peanut butter crackers in a little pack, and a little wet nap thing, and a joke printed on a piece of paper. It's all in one little Ziploc bag. And I keep those because here in Phoenix, there's a real homeless problem. And it seems like at every corner, there's someone that's looking for a little help. And so I go out of my way to have these little packs ready, and I hand it to them. And yeah, it's a joke, not a little religious quote or anything like that. I just want to make people have a little better moment. I want to give them a chance to wipe themselves up and have a little nibble and a little fresh water. And for sure, we give them plenty of cash too. We give away lots of money because we want to elevate people. You can't give what you don't have. And speaking of money, I want you to consider this. Let me pick on Marilyn because she did such a great job of introducing me. If I was standing next to Marilyn right now and I said, Marilyn, can I have a $100 bill? It's possible that on her person or in her purse or somewhere nearby, she might have a $100 bill. And let's just say that for a second, she does not. So I'm standing next to her. I'm asking for a very specific thing. Marilyn, give me a $100 bill. She looks, and she looks. Can't find one. She can't give me one. She might be able to give me a 20 and a 10 or a driver's license and a credit card or some other kind of thing, but she can't give me that $100 bill. She can't give what she doesn't have. I want you to consider the notion again of what you stand for, your core beliefs. Mine is elevate people. If you don't know what you stand for, how can anybody else? You can't give what you don't have. That's very real. And friends, there are 156 days left in this calendar year. Time's ticking. It is going quick. And the truth of the matter is, if you stand for nothing, it is costing you money. As a salesperson, as a person in charge of your own company, you are a salesperson. If you have no idea what you stand for, you are losing business. I want to show you something that we call the overlap methodology. It's super simple. It's just a simple Venn diagram, but this is exactly how this core belief thing works. It starts, of course, with you, right? You as an individual have a core belief the same way I do. And then you have your business. It's a separate entity, but yet it's a reflection of you. Two different parts, you and your company. The third is your prospect, your potential client. What we're looking for is an overlap when all three parts, that dead center bullseye, believe the same thing. There are plenty of people in my world, plenty of clients who believe deeply in the notion of elevating people. And then there are others, not so much. I am looking to work with only those people that believe the same thing. And I draw a really loud, hard, visible line in the sand about elevating people. This is one of those kind of things where I am not messing around because that core belief, which leads to actions, is so important. When I talk about elevating people, go ahead, look it up, do some Googling on me. You will see that I don't care in any way, shape, or form what station in life you occupy, what your religion, gender, orientation, race, etc. is. To me, we need to elevate all people. The moment that I sniff out that you see it another way is the minute I say, we are not working together. And people self-select. There are plenty of people who will look at all the stuff, all the content that I put out, and they'll say, not that guy. They don't want to work with me either. They inherently understand the notion of working with people that believe the same thing. They understand the notion of finding that bullseye, the overlap of you, the individual, your company, and them as the prospect. The key is creating congruence. Again, you can't give what you don't have. If you don't know what you stand for and believe, how can the rest of the world? I want you to just right now for a second, think of things like your marketing materials. Think about your website, business card, your email signature line, the sales presentation you do, any printed materials you might leave behind, the proposals that you send out, the words you say at things like a cocktail or networking party. Is there congruence between your core belief as a human being, the beliefs that you have as a firm, and then is there a parallel narrative to tell the story in a way that people can actually wrap their arms around? There's a pretty good likelihood that those things don't exist. I'm going to make this clearer, but for just a second, I want you to think about it. What do you stand for? Is it codified? Is it written? Is it put down anywhere for people to react to? I've got a lot of stuff that tells people that we are absolutely going to elevate people. And if you're not interested in elevating, no thanks. People get it. I get it. And that line in the sand is incredibly clear. Now, I want to help make this actionable for you. I want to tell you about the two most powerful words in language, any language. In English, it expresses as imagine and believe. Imagine and believe. You heard me say it. We believe in elevating people. Imagine working with a firm that wants to lift you up and make you better in your skills and your ability to do your job. There it is in action. Believe and imagine. Imagine and believe. Those are two incredible words that I want you to add to your arsenal. When you start writing things like your sales presentation, your website, the signature on your email line, consider using your core beliefs in statements like we believe, I believe, and imagine in a way to get people to recognize what you provide. Imagine working with a CPA firm that will aggressively pursue every opportunity to minimize your tax burden, but only within the bounds of ethical norms. Imagine working with an insurance agent who wants to help you at your darkest of time. We believe that's possible. Use those words as often as you can. It's huge in getting your sales out in a way that people clearly understand that bullseye, that center overlap of you, your firm, and their beliefs as well. Super important. I want to give you some tangible examples of what this looks like in business today. Now, these are big businesses, but it's absolutely appropriate for small business as well. I fly, well, before COVID, I flew a lot. Now I don't fly nearly as much, but I've got, I don't know, about 1.2 million miles on American Airlines. I have spent more than a few hours on an airplane, and I am all about schedule. For me, it's typically not about price. What I want is duration. I want the shortest flight possible. I want nonstops. Don't make me change planes. And I want it to be the kind of thing where me as a frequent flyer, I want the best seat and I want those upgrades and I want that lounge. Price is secondary, which means I don't fly Spirit Airlines. Now, I have absolutely no problem with Spirit Airlines. They're completely fine. And I say that because I've never flown Spirit Airlines, but I know what they believe, what they stand for is the absolute cheapest price. Imagine getting on an airplane, flying from Orlando to LA for $29. Now, I don't know if that's true, but that's the kind of words that Spirit Airlines can use. I would look at that and go, no, thanks. But they even put bare fares on the actual jet. You could see it right there below the wing. Everything they do is about being cheapest. They know what they stand for, and they absolutely announce it to the world. Less than a mile and a half from my office is a Jimmy John's. Now, this is not the world's best sandwich, nor is it the worst, but it is certainly the freaky fastest. It is crazy. We order Jimmy John's around here when we're short on time. If we're knee deep in client projects or we've got something going on or we've got to do a client virtual meeting like this, and there's only a little bit of time, we're not ordering a pizza or running out to go get a burger. What we're doing is hopping online, ordering through a little online portal, and bam, within mere moments, it seems like Jimmy John's has delivered us the sandwich. It's freaky fast. They don't stand for cheapest nor best. They don't stand for anything more than speed, and they tell you all about it. Perhaps one of my more favorite ones. I'm out here in Arizona. This stuff matters to me a lot. The environment, our mother nature, earth, you name it. I go for lots of hikes in lots of beautiful parts of the world. And so there's a retailer called Patagonia that sells all the outdoor apparel, shoes, etc. And a number of months ago, on the back of the labels on some of their apparel, they added this little phrase. They didn't tell you who they were speaking of. They just said, get rid of them. And it's very clear. We know what Patagonia believes. And then they expressed it in a remarkably engaging way. Remember, people remember stories. People talked about what Patagonia did. How about Tesla? Tesla absolutely believes in cutting edge technology. They just posted $1 billion profit. They absolutely dominate the EV market. And it is clear that Elon Musk and all of his companies, Boring, SpaceX, you name it, they are all about leading the way in technology. They know exactly what's at the center. They know what they stand for as individuals, as firms, and those they're trying to attract. I write about this in my book. My father-in-law is in the oil business. He's in downstate Illinois, kind of on the border of Kentucky and Indiana, and there's actually lots of fossil fuel production there. And he and I have gone round and round and round because he's all about oil and I am all about things like green and EV and wind and solar, etc. We do not have the overlap. He is not a prospective client for me. And no matter what story I tell, no matter what parallel, really doesn't matter because I understand that he is not my kind of client. And so, gang, what I want you to do more than anything else, I want you to understand, figure out what you believe, tell a great parallel narrative for people to understand. The same way we talk about things like elevating people, I want you to do the same. if you're interested in learning more about this, please find me on LinkedIn. It is by far the place I spend the most amount of time. It's simple, Brian Burkhart, Phoenix, do a little Googling kind of thing and you'll find me. But with that, I will tell you that I am deeply excited to hear from you. It's time for questions. Tara, Marilyn?
It was. I popped in and then I blocked your LinkedIn screen, so I popped back out because I was so excited because of the questions. So I'm sorry. I got real excited.
There is a lot there to take in. So hopefully people get it. But it's definitely one of those kind of things where I think as we get into questions, some of this will probably get crystallized. But hopefully we can jump in right away.
Absolutely. And I will give you a warning. We're getting messages from some people that they're having trouble submitting questions. And so if that is you, keep trying. We'll go with some of the questions that we already have. And I've been generating questions.
Yeah.
And actually, Marilyn, I can hear your fan now, just so you know, in the audio. So actually, a couple questions popped up as it relates to your Shark Tank experience. Right, because we did put in your bio that you've been coaching some Shark Tank people, and I think that looking at the question that's online, but also one that I had, I'm curious, what are the traditional mistakes people make, as it relates to your experience with Shark Tank?
It's an easy one, Tara. It's what I said right from the get-go. It's always about the audience. A good example in my mind is things like what we just did. I talk about this stuff all the time. But I absolutely spend time in advance because it's not about me. It's about all of you. It's about the audience to make sure that things like my slides are prepared and that the technology works and that I'm mentally ready. All that stuff is not about me. It's about all of you. And the biggest thing in any kind of presentation, big, small, medium, doesn't matter, is people focus on the wrong thing. They focus on themselves. The root of the word presentation is present, as in Merry Christmas, Happy Birthday. You are giving a gift. And too frequently, people forget that. They make it all about them. They do things like use the slides as a cheat sheet. They use it as a way to know what they're going to say. It's all wrong. It's 1,000% the problem every time that people fail to remember it's about the audience. And so even things like Shark Tank is a great example where that is made for TV. What you see and what is are often wildly different. But it is definitely the kind of thing where that's about creating a certain narrative and a TV sort of appeal that's engaging and interesting. Yes, for the sharks, but also for the viewers at home. And that's a really good lesson here. And it is very much appropriate for our individual smaller worlds. It's not about us. It's about our audience.
Okay. Another question that I got is Rick is asking, in your metrics of importance, where would you put your relationship building a sense of trust?
Incredibly high. For me, there's a couple of things that we talk about all the time. One of the things I have been saying for years, there are 3 questions in business that we ask internally and certainly prod with our clients. And we say things like, what business are you in? What business are you really in? And what business should you be in? I can answer things like the business I'm in is in business communications, but the business I'm really in is in relationships. And so all the things that I do are about developing the connections in those relationships. One of the best ways I do that is by knowing what I stand for. I can eliminate a good half of the potential client base because we don't believe the same things. There are lots and lots and lots and lots of people out there with plenty of money and opportunity to work with me, but we are not on the same page. Our center overlap is not aligned. And so I don't waste my time building those relationships. By knowing what I believe, I have found my group and I focus on building relationships within that community. And once I have that nailed, that leads to business. And so for me, relationships are essentially primary, but it starts by knowing your core belief.
So now something that Tara and I, we talk about a lot is, especially with COVID, things are slow for some people. And you have been in a situation, I'm sure, at some point in your business where you just want a client. So how do you walk that tightrope line between finding the optimal client that has the same beliefs versus that client that can help you pay your bills? I mean, let's be clear. We all want the optimal client that have the same beliefs, but sometimes that's not the reality. So what's your suggestion there?
I think it's a heck of a question, and boy, do I know it. I mean, I'll give you those metrics again. In 2020, we lost $10.1 million in 11 days. That's real. And so I think what you're saying, Marilyn, is essentially it boils down to this. You need to survive before you can thrive. And so for me, I am absolutely going to give people a complete and full pass. If you are in a position where, let's call it almost one of desperation, if you have a client and it's going to make a difference between, paying the bills or not, by all means, do the work, knowing full well that you're going to get a lot of lessons from that. You're going to know what you don't want to do going forward. When we were really at the depths of this COVID crisis in 2020, I came here to my office on a Saturday. It was quiet. There was nobody around. We got a bunch of whiteboards, and I went to our biggest whiteboard and I wrote down, what do I want? Not what makes us money traditionally, not what am I good at, not what are we capable of, but what do I want? And I leaned into the things that are really within my zone of genius. And since that moment, I have been focused all my efforts on that. And so what I'm really doing is getting even more intentional. And that's been the word that has bubbled up more than anything else in 2020 for me personally, is intentionality. And so, yes, survive, do the deal, work with the client, but in a parallel track, get really intentional about what you want and work towards that at the same time.
Nice. So almost building off of that, again, hi, the person that doesn't love sales. So I really loved when you talked about kind of taking your core belief and that there are things you can do to market differently, right? Like whether having your little baggies or someone who's more aggressive, kind of what the things they will do. I'm curious, what are the must-have pieces of a sales strategy, right? Because you can pivot in a lot of different ways, but what's that core that you recommend?
Well, I think the thing that is interesting is the notion of sales strategy. It's multi-layered, right? Think of it like a wedding cake, that it has multiple layers. The thing about this, and I hope I made it abundantly clear, you can't give what you don't have. If you don't know what your core belief is, first and foremost, you're just throwing product offers up. And as Gartner told us, 74% of the buyers say, it's not going to work. So you've got to know what you stand for first. That's the bottom layer. Then everything else levels up. I'll go back to my notion of this CFO for hire, CPA kind of firm, and Khalil Mack of the Bears. It's the kind of thing where I know it seems odd, but that parallel, that storyline that you create, that's what people really remember and gravitate towards. And so when I started saying things like get your website, your business cards, your email signature, your sales deck itself, the words that you say, all of those things and then some become opportunities for people to express their core belief in a unique way. Let's go back to this CFO for hire. Imagine if that Khalil Mack story of the Bears really resonated with you, okay? You go online and you buy the little tiny baby ones. Like they typically are even used as pencil sharpeners. I had them as a kid, little NFL helmets, get the Chicago Bears, and then you get a little image of Khalil Mack that you print out in your color laser printer, and you put on a little letter that says, when you think of getting your taxes done, think of Khalil Mack. Absolutely crushing the opponents. In this case, it's the IRS, but fully within the legal bounds. If that sounds good to you, give me a call. And you mail those out to the top 100 prospects you have. That's a sales strategy built from your core belief and expressed using a parallel narrative. I don't care what the strategy is. First, you have to understand your core belief. Then you create the parallel. Then you go out to the world and express it. There's only about 1,000 ways to skin that cat. The part that people fail to do is that base. They get the foundation wrong, and they're just trying a bunch of different things with products, and it doesn't work. Does that answer your question, Tara?
It does. It does. There's actually another question that Ingrid has that I think connects with that perfectly, right? So Ingrid says, hi, Ingrid. I'm confused about where your belief and your business offerings intersects. I sell program strategy, but I don't have the luxury of exploring my clients' beliefs nor them mine. Right. So I think this is fairly common for those of us that sell B2B. right? Even though you're always selling to an individual, I don't always know where they stand, and where is that line? Like, she says it better than I can explain it.
Ingrid, this is a good question, and I'm ever so struggling to make sure I get it right. But I can tell you, I sell B2B. I mean, I sell professional services, right? And so it is exactly the same in my world. The intersection really is first and foremost. It's loud and proud. It is ever present. It's everywhere. I started by telling you why we exist, how we do it, and in very small little order, what it is exactly that we do. The thing is, the what's are the easy parts. That's all the product offerings themselves. Getting why and how first is really what pulls people in. It's what pulls potential clients towards you. And in many same ways, it repels those that you should never work with. And so it's kind of a good thing. You want to push away those that are bad fits. That notion of where your offering intersects your beliefs, it's there. It's just in the proper sequence. I did not start by saying, hi, I'm Brian. We build sales presentations, which means writing scripts, developing PowerPoint images, and then helping people stand and deliver with more power. I could have done that, but I started by telling you that we elevate people. You're either with me or you're not. And that's what I'm trying to find out first. I'm trying to eliminate those that are bad fits. And so you have the luxury of certainly having time to figure out your core beliefs. When you say you don't have time, sure you do. It's what you lead with. It's the first thing you offer is your core belief, not last. I hope that makes sense.
And what I hear you saying is definitely like we all have a lot of core beliefs about lots of things, and it's probably, the core beliefs as it relates to what you do. I think that may be the connection piece, right? To the product.
Where it gets interesting, I'm sorry if I interrupted you there, Sarah. It's things like we've got the singular core belief, which is fueled by like 13 other sub beliefs, right? And so there are elements to this to tell the whole story. I'll give you an example. There's an incredible woman. She's long since deceased. She was an admiral in the U.S. Navy. She was one of the original computer programmers. She can be credited for the notion of a bug in the system. Her name is Grace Hopper, and she had all these backwards clocks in her office. And she was in the Navy. She was a woman amongst a sea of middle-aged men who said, this is how we do it. And her backwards clock was to say, no, those clocks still tell time. They just do it a different way. She wanted people to think and say, there's another way. Her idea was that the most dangerous phrase in language was, this is the way we've always done it. Well, we've got a backwards clock in our office. It's one of our ways of saying to our clients, we are not going to do it the way you've always done it. If you want someone to simply polish up your ugly slide deck, call somebody else. Okay. We're going to do it different. We're going to lead with beliefs, and we're going to make an incredible parallel narrative, and we're going to get you to engage your clients in a really unique way. There is no luxury to that. That's us putting that out there first. And if people get it, and if they believe that, awesome. They're going to be clients for a long time. If they want someone to simply polish up their slides, they're going to say, well, you're not a good fit. And that's exactly what we want. That's the best thing. The salespeople that always crush it, the ones that go on those, fancy trips to far off locations and get recognized at the end of the year, the biggest thing that the best salespeople do is they stop working on deals that are never going to close sooner than later. They don't waste their energy or time on the wrong prospects. And knowing your core belief and putting it out there first helps that as much as anything else.
You know what, Brian, I think that what's interesting and important to know is that everything you're saying is exactly the opposite of what we've always been told, because usually we lead with our services or our product, and the core belief of who we are and how we want to deliver our business is always in the back. And that was the one thing I thought was really interesting, because as a small business, you don't want to exhaust a lot of time working with people that don't work, that just don't jive. It's interesting. Ingrid is probably one of the most passionate people I know. I've known Ingrid for a while, and she has some strong core beliefs. She's an amazing person and an amazing consultant. And she knows we play in the same playground at times. And she knows there are people, when we see them walking down the street, we're like, oh, no. And that's kind of, I think, what you're saying, but it's the opposite of what we typically hear, especially as small business people. And I don't want to keep saying small business, but solopreneurs, because we are learning from what we've seen. Like, a lot of us come from corporate that have huge sales teams, and they have step by step strategy that they go through. And what you're saying is cut it off with the step by step, and first start with who you are as a business.
For sure, Marilyn. And believe me, some of those humongous billion-dollar firms with huge sales teams, most of them get it wrong too. That's the majority of the clients that I serve are those kind of firms, helping them realize that their ways are counter to our humanity. Our notion, cognitive psychology theory, tells us that our beliefs lead to our actions. This is who we are as human people, right? And unfortunately, we've been socialized through a variety of things. We feel safe. We feel like we belong when we follow the masses and just lead with all the whats. When you lead with whys, it's counter. Now, the thing that gets interesting is, I promise you, there were a number of people listening early who were like, oh, I like the idea of elevating people, and I kind of want to make waves. At no point did I tell you exactly what we do. You have no idea who's on our team, what my deep background is, what our experience is or client list. You have no idea how long it takes, what our process is, or even what I charge. Yet, I guarantee there were some people who were kind of like, whoo, elevate people, make waves, I'm in. Where do I sign? If you can get your core beliefs out there in a really clear way that actually gets people's attention, they actually understand it, you can sell right then and there. All that other stuff, I mean, yeah, you got to get to it, but it is not what matters most. It's not. It's so hard to do that, however. I had this story in my book, and I actually did it at the night of my book launch. We had a big party in Chicago, and I had about a 200-page book, and I had 3 minutes that I was going to read an excerpt. And I had to pick which chunk. What am I going to read? This is a big deal to me. And I told the story of the first time I was at a networking event, and I was going to lead with my belief. And it's in I forget what the chapter is, but I was basically saying that drop me on a stage in front of 10,000 people. The largest group I've spoken in front of was 19,000 people at the United Center. I wasn't nervous. I was excited. But in a room of 50 people at a networking event where I was going to lead with my beliefs, I thought my heart was going to rip out of my chest cavity because it's so counter. I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel like I belonged because I was doing something totally divergent from everybody else. Of course, the way this story goes too is I told my thing my way. It went around the room to all 50 people. And the moderator, the first thing they did was go, Brian, tell me more. Like it works. You just have to get comfortable doing it. It's not easy.
Yeah.
But it makes a huge shift.
This is huge, right? Like, and I agree with Marilyn. So often we just don't, like, we're taught to do it differently. And so being able to process the way, and it's a great way to differentiate because oftentimes we're competing with larger organizations. And, like for me, I feel like it's a great way to stand out from the crowd. But Brian, we could talk to you all day.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
1 minute, Tara. We're out of time. It's crazy.
One thing though, last thing I will say this, and Tara, you know this to be true, and Brian, this leads to what you're saying. People buy from people they like. If they don't 100%. Like you, if your beliefs, if they don't believe in you and your beliefs are just they're misaligned.
That's exactly it, Marilyn.
Yeah. With
Brian,
that said,
thank you. We like you, and we're buying everything that you got to say. And so everyone, please, like Brian's got a book. Follow Brian. He's got some great things on his website, on YouTube, resources. Brian, thank you.
Thank you all so very much. I wish everyone the best. Be well, be healthy, be safe. Vaccines, people, get them.
Thank you.
Right on. Marilyn, I can talk to Brian all day, but I can talk to you always.
Thank you.
I feel like we should do that more. What do you think?
I think we should do it more. And I think, Tara, we should let people hear some of the things we're saying. Brian did make mention of how we had a nice chat even before he was on camera. Kind of funny too.
Yeah. So with that, we'd like to announce we have a podcast. Why? Because everyone has a podcast. Everybody has a podcast. Now we are everybody too. So announcing right now, like today, this moment, you can go on Spotify and find the solo CEOs for solopreneurs by solopreneurs, and that is Marilyn and I. Now, trust me, you'll be able. So right now, it's on Spotify and it's also on Anchor. Within a couple of days, it's going to be everywhere you can find podcasts. You know the deal. Get on there, listen, like, share, rate us is what we need. You get a little bit more love in your ear. It's
you
great.
get a lot of candid conversations, and some are not as clean as others. Tara has a terrible mouth. Who would have thought?
How dare you, Marilyn? How dare you? And it's true. So please join our podcast. And you know the deal. We do guru talks every once in a while. Go to our website. You can see the other ones that we've had. And we would love to hear from you to find out what other speakers, other ideas you would like to hear for your guru talks or even for the podcast.
Definitely.
So go to our new website, thesoloceos.com.
Yeah, because we are the what, Tara? The what?
The Solo CEOs we are.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Like and share, you all.
Y'all, thank you for showing up. You know, we appreciate you. Our community means everything to us. We learn as much from you as hopefully you're learning from us and the people that we bring into the group. So any last words, Ms. Marilyn?
Listen, everybody just go out, be safe. Please be safe and continue to follow us. Let people know about us. You know, so far our content has been free and it's really good content. Podcast is off the chain. Terry and I have listened to them, and we even rated ourselves 10 out of 5. So you know it's really good.
Humility is not one of our traits, not our core belief.
No. But anyway, thank you, everybody.
Yeah. As always, before we go, we want to say thank you to our team. You know, you heard it from Brian first, LaToya Williamson, Crystal Winston, you know, and our favorite Sherry Trotter. Absolutely are the core and the rock. And one day we're going to get them to show up on camera, just not today.
We always get pushback. Thank you
all. They
all.
don't love us enough. Thank you all. Have a good day. Talk to you soon.